What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao with the news on a chilly Christmas afternoon here in Taipei. It's been back-to-back rallies for Taiwan's 3 presidential candidates. And with just a few weekends left until Election Day, parties are kicking their campaigns into high gear. Joyce Tseng reports.
High spirits in Taiwan this Christmas weekend, not for the holidays, but the pivotal 3-way race for the country's next head of state. That's as the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP's president, Tsai Ing-wen, is closing out her second and final term in office. The main opposition Kuomintang, or KMT, says under Tsai, Taiwan's high-stakes relationship with China has worsened, with Beijing's long-looming threat to invade the country. The KMT's presidential candidate, new Taipei Mayor Hou You-yi, has pledged to up exchanges with Taiwan's powerful neighbor, a strategy many of his supporters cheered for at a major rally in the capital, Taipei.
我们一直很想要，就是要侯友宜当选。我知道这一战很难，但是我觉得我们有信心。
期待就是说他的政见说得到做得到，让我们老百姓或是下一代过得更幸福。
The KMT estimates as many as 80,000 people came out in the winter cold to show their support.
The KMT is the first out of the 3 parties this election cycle to host a rally at the capital's landmark Ketagalan Boulevard. The rain has not stopped people from turning up for the event, which is significant given it is just a street away from the election goal, the presidential office.
This election, a third party is aiming for top office in what's long been seen as a 2-party democracy. The Taiwan People's Party's pick, Ko Wen-je, pointed to his experience as former Taipei mayor, attending multiple Shanghai-Taipei city forums as proof he's fit to steer Taiwan-China relations in a better direction.
他已经证明了柯文哲有能力跟中国相处跟谈判。 赖清德是做不到的，侯友宜是没有经验的。
Arguably, the candidate most familiar with the duties of Taiwan's top office is the DPP's Lai Ching-te. He's the incumbent vice president who just wrapped up his 4-day, 18-city tour around Taiwan. His party pursues a more cautious approach to China, opting to strengthen links with what they call like-minded countries, like the U.S. Despite geopolitical pressures, Lai's vowed that if elected, he'll put the Taiwanese people and their needs first.
赖清德当总统，人民才是老大，人民才是老板。每个认真打拼的台湾人，才是真真正正的台湾英雄。
With 3 different approaches to protecting Taiwan, the parties can't lose steam, with just 2 more weekends to go until the January 13th election day to convince the public their party is the best bet for maintaining peace in the Taiwan Strait. Joseph Wu, Sam Hui, and Joyce Tseng for TaiwanPlus.
Hundreds of people have rallied in Taiwan's capital for better pay and working conditions, marking the end of a 400-kilometer labor rights march across the country. Louise Watt reports.
Sick of chronic low wages and directing their anger at Taiwan's government. 20 labor unions rallied in the capital Taipei, calling for the minimum monthly wage to be raised from the current $850 US.
低薪，这个对劳工来讲是一个最大的痛嘛。你要至少有它的基数，一定要提高到3.5万以上，让劳工的基本生活没有疑虑，而且它能养活至少2个没有薪资的家属。
Amid rising prices, wages in Taiwan have stagnated compared to economic growth. Labour unions also hope for better overtime pay and employer pension contributions, and 7 more public holidays a year. The marchers took their protests to the headquarters of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, which has been in power in Taiwan for almost 8 years. Elections are coming up, and 2 of the presidential candidates have already said they support raising the minimum wage. Vice President Lai Ching-te of the ruling DPP by 4%, and Hou You-yi of the main opposition Kuomintang, or KMT, by a much larger 25%. which would bring it up to around $1,000 a month. Third-party candidate and former Taipei Mayor Ke Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party says he would reform the country's schools to give young people an education better suited for the workforce, which he says would lead to higher wages. In this once every 4 years election, observers suggest low wages and a lack of affordable housing are big issues for voters, something made clear by protests like this one, and which could sway voters at the polls. Devin Tsai and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Authorities here in Taiwan issued cold weather warnings over the weekend as the mercury plummeted. Several parts of the country, including much of northern Taiwan, were hit by low temperatures. They dropped below zero up on Jade Mountain, Taiwan's tallest peak, with thick layers of ice forming on its slopes and on its weather station equipment. Experts say this icy weather is due to cold fronts passing through Taiwan, and temperatures are forecast to rise again before the new year. 8 people are in stable condition after their vehicle went over a cliff in central Taiwan. 7 Philippine tourists and a Taiwanese driver fell 30 meters into a valley after losing control of their vehicle on Hehuan Mountain. 3 of them were trapped in the vehicle for 9 hours before police rescued them. The accident happened as the cold spell hit the area, causing icy conditions on the roads. Meanwhile, farmers in southern Taiwan are taking extra steps to protect their crops from the unusually cold weather. Temperatures in Pingtung dropped to 17 degrees, part of the cold spell that hit the country over the weekend. Local basil farmers have been doing all they can to keep their crops warm, since the herb could stop growing in cold conditions. A 24-hour bookstore in the heart of Taipei has shut down after 18 years, with tens of thousands of readers bidding the iconic store farewell on its final day. Tiffany Wong reports.
3、2、1， 成品Xinyi。
Saying goodbye to a Taipei landmark. Crowds of people gathered to bid farewell to the 24-hour elite Xinyi bookstore in its final hours on Christmas Eve. It had been the backdrop for important memories in many visitors' lives.
因为大学时期有在这边打工，在北部念书，然后就是算是我初步认识台北的一个契机。
还是会有舍不得，因为之前还算。 1个月可能至少也会来个2、3次，
充满了回忆，这样子很舍不得啦。台北少了一个书店，蛮可惜的。对。
The 5-story department and bookstore had been a constant presence in the heart of Taipei's busiest shopping district for nearly 2 decades, and began operating around-the-clock reading space on the 3rd floor after the chain's flagship 24-hour store closed in 2020. But just 3 years later, the store announced that it was unable to renew its lease with owner Uni-President Group, which plans to turn the building into a shopping mall. But Elite Chair Mercy Wu said that the group would continue to operate 24-hour bookstores at other locations, and felt encouraged by the generations of readers it had nurtured.
这么多民众，他们是从儿童馆、文具馆，然后到书店。 然后他们讲，他们小时候在这边手作，然后年轻的时候、学生的时候在这边准备考试，然后之后可能成家的时候再带自己的小朋友再回来这里。
Now, late-night readers will be welcomed temporarily at a store in Taipei's Zhongshan district until permanent 24-hour operations begin a new chapter at the elite Songyan store at the end of January, turning a page for the next generation of readers to write their own stories. Eason Chen and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Nearly 5 million people in Taiwan are directly affected by laws concerning disability, but they do not necessarily have a say in how those laws are made. Harrell Hughes reports.
制度不健全，制度不健全，没有自主权，没有自主权，合理调整。
Trapped by Taiwan's laws. These activists rallied outside the country's legislature, calling for greater representation in government for people with disabilities, an action they say will lead to better laws for the 1.2 million people in Taiwan who have a disability, like Sun Jialiang. He has a form of cerebral palsy, which makes it difficult to move and talk. He relies on a caregiver.
最近嘉良在练站跟蹲，那这可以练大腿的力量，我很高兴他愿意。
But this is a necessity that is becoming increasingly unaffordable. Currently, the government offers subsidies for these services, but only for 2 hours a day.
可怜人，
An estimated 5 million people in Taiwan are directly affected by disability laws, but they are not among those who make the decisions.
声音障碍者最了解声音障碍者的困境跟人权的议题，所以呢，我们有句话说，没有障碍者的参与，不要为障碍者做决定。
Rights groups are currently working with existing government bodies, and they're urging political parties to choose candidates with disabilities for legislator-at-large positions. These are seats that are assigned rather than contested.
我要再一次的恳请国民党也拜托，好不好？那个2004的立法委员，能不能或者真的拜托提名一位身心障碍者？
They hope guaranteed seats in the legislature will lead to more empathy, better decision-making, and a way to remove the chains of current disability laws. Leon Lian and Harel Hughes for TaiwanPlus.
Losing a loved one is tough, and for many people, they don't have the opportunity to say their final farewells. However, new AI technology has emerged in China to help mourners ease their pain and grief. Our reporter Laurel Stewart has this story.
Wu Siku and his wife are visiting their son, Shenmo, at a quiet cemetery in eastern China. Like most visits to a deceased family member, it's sad and solemn. But an unexpected voice joins the grieving parents. This is Shenmo's voice, brought back into being after his death last year. It may sound robotic and uncanny, but for his parents, it doesn't matter.
就是他成年与不成年这样的一个年龄段的走到，这是一个世上可能是最痛的一个失去亲人的一种痛嘛，这个东西你说怎么走出来？
In his grief, Wu began researching ways to bring his son back. He gathered photos, videos, and audio recordings of Shenmo, and spent thousands of dollars paying AI firms to clone his face and voice.
突然有一天梦里头，一闪就那么一段，他就叫我爸。人是可以复活的，一句话。第二个呢，说完这句话呢，在我面前拿起笔记本一打开，就在那块敲键盘。这以后就是梦就完了。
Wu Siku and his wife are among a growing number of people in China who are turning to AI to recreate the experience of being with their loved ones.
我们是作为一个这种情感疗愈，我们是以就是智能驱动的方式，我会用一个全息的方式去把它放到我们身边，就是会让他觉得得到一个数字陪伴，一个他真正的亲人陪伴，实时的，就是说，或者是他需要的时候陪伴他在他身边的这种感觉。
Zhang Ziwei's company charges a couple thousand US$ to create a basic avatar within 20 days. It's not only for the deceased, however, as some of his clients are living parents who are not able to spend time with their children. The clients can also hold video calls with a staff member whose appearance and voice have been altered to resemble the loved one.
其实这世上有多少人就是像我这样的人也不少，对吧？ 这也算是用一种新的技术科技实现一个人的一种人生一种完美吧。
But this new technology also has its risks. Associate Professor Patrick Stokes of Deakin School says there's a possibility of avatars being abused to exploit people's identities or damage their reputation. This use of AI technology raises questions for some, but there's no question that for Wu and his wife, seeing their son's familiar face is a source of comfort. Patrick Chen, Sandy Chi, and Laurel Stewart for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us here on What's Up Taiwan. Finally spread some holiday cheer along with these 300 people dressed as Santa Claus in Tokyo. I'm Eric Gao, and Merry Christmas, one and all.